This is a sub-article to Muhammad after the conquest of Mecca. The Battle of Hunayn was fought between Muhammad and his followers against the Bedouin tribe of Hawazin and its subsection the Thaqif in 630 in a valley on one of the roads leading from Mecca to Al-Taif. The battle ended in a decisive victory for the Muslims, who captured enormous spoils. The Battle of Hunayn is one of only two battles mentioned in the Quran by name in Surah Tawbah. Preparations. Background: the conquest of Mecca astounded both the Arabs and other tribes. The Hawazins had been long-standing enemies of Meccans. They were located northeast of Mecca and their territory sat beside the trade route to Hira in Iraq. The Hawazins were allied with the Thaqifs of Taif, which was located southeast of Mecca and whose trade routes ran through Hawazin territory. The alliance had engaged in several wars probably concerning trade routes between Taif and Mecca. Given this history, they saw Muhammad as another powerful Quraysh leader who had come to lead his people. They thought among themselves that a war with Muslims was imminent and that the once persecuted minority of Muslims had gained an upper hand against their non-Muslim Arab enemies. Some tribes favored fighting him and the Muslims. Ahead of these were the tribes of Hawazin and Thaqif. According to the Muslim scholar Safiya Rahman Mubarakpuri, they thought that they were too mighty to admit or surrender to such a victory. So, they met Malik bin Awf and Nasri and made up their minds to proceed fighting against the Muslims. Malik persuaded other tribes to fight and gathered them before him. The confederation of tribes consisting of Nasr, Jusham, Sad bin Bakr, Bani Hilal, Bani Amr bin Amir and Bani Awf bin Amir gathered at Tautas along with the Thaqif and Hawazin. On that day Muhammad had 12,000 armed soldiers under his standard. Out of them 10,000 were those who had accompanied him from Medina and had taken part in the conquest of Mecca, and the other 2,000 were from amongst Quraysh, who had embraced Islam recently. The command of this group rested with Abu Sufyan. In those days such an army was hardly found anywhere, and this numerical strength of theirs became the cause of their initial defeat. It was because, contrary to the past, they prided themselves on the large number of their soldiers and ignored the military tactics and principles of war. When Muslim soldiers, including the new Meccan converts who saw large number of men, they said, "We shan't at all be defeated, because our soldiers far outnumber those of the enemy." Equipment of the Muslims. Muhammad was aware of the strength and the obstinacy of the enemy. Before leaving Mecca, therefore, he called Safwan bin Umayyah and borrowed 100 coats of mail from him and guaranteed its return. He personally put on 2 coats of mail, put a helmet on his head, mounted a white mule, which had been presented to him, and moved on behind the army of Islam in the rear guard. Meanwhile, the tribe of Bani Salam arrived in the passage of Hunayn under the command of Khalid ibn al-Walid before the day had yet fully dawned. The Hawazin and their allies, the Thaqif, began mobilizing their forces when they learnt from their spies that Muhammad and his army had departed from Medina to begin an assault on Mecca. The Confederates apparently hoped to attack the Muslim army while it besieged Mecca. Muhammad, however, uncovered their intentions through his own spies in the camp of the Hawazin, and marched against the Hawazin just 2 weeks after the conquest of Mecca with a force of 12,000 men. Only 4 weeks had elapsed since quitting Medina. Course of the battle. On Wednesday night, the 10th of Shawwal, the Muslim army arrived at Hunayn. Malik bin Awf, who had previously entered the valley by night, gave orders to his army to hide inside the valley and lurk for the Muslims on roads, entrances, and narrow hiding places. His orders to his men were to hurl stones at Muslims whenever they caught sight of them and then to make one-man attacks against them. When Muslims started camping, arrows began showering intensely at them. their enemies' battalions started a fierce attack against the Muslims, who had to retreat in disorder and utter confusion. It is reported that only a few soldiers stayed behind and fought, including Ali bin Abu Talib, the standard-bearer, Abbas bin Abdullah, Abu Fadl al-Abbas, Usama, and Abi Sufyan bin Harith. Come on, people. I am the messenger of Allah. I am Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. Then Muhammad said, "O Allah, send down your help." Later Muslims returned to the battlefield. Muhammad, then picking up a handful of earth, he hurled it at their faces while saying, "May your faces be shameful." Their eyes were thick with dust and the enemy began to retreat in utter confusion. According to the Muslim scholar Safia Rahman Mubarakpuri, after the enemy was defeated, about 70 men of Thaqif alone were killed, and the Muslims captured all their riding camels, weapons and cattle. The Quran verse 925 was also revealed in this event according to Muslim scholars. Some of the enemies fled, and Muhammad chased after them. Similar battalions chased after other enemies. Rabi'a bin Rafi caught up with Juraid bin Asimah, who was an old man, and killed him. Juraid was an important asset of the pagan forces due to his great number of experiences in battle and knowledge of terrain and war tactics. This is mentioned by the Muslim jurist Tabari as follows. Aftermath. Because Malik ibn Awf al-Nasri had brought the families and flocks of the Hawazin along, the Muslims were able to capture huge spoils. 6,000 prisoners were taken prisoners and 24,000 camels were captured. Some Bedouins fled, and split into two groups. One group went back, resulting in the Battle of Autas, while the larger group found refuge at Al-Taif, where Muhammad besieged them. William Montgomery Watt remarks that Muhammad took on the role as the hero of Meccans by facing their Bedouin arch-enemies, the Hawazins and the Thaqifs of the city of Al-Taif. This played a major role in integrating the Meccans into the Ummah, while at the same time setting the stage for Arab tribes to join the Islamic movement. Islamic primary sources. The event is mentioned in the Sunni Hadith collection Sahih Bukhari as follows. The event is also in Imam Malik's Al-Muwatta as follows.